I'm Rachel Lawson, 30 years old, and last Christmas morning I stood in my parents' living room holding a glass of untouched champagne I'd brought to celebrate my engagement across the room. My brother and sister were laughing about sunscreen and passports, and that was the moment I knew something wasn't right. I smiled through it anyway, handed out the gifts I'd chosen so carefully, then watched them open theirs with distracted glances. Not once did anyone ask about the ring on my hand or the plans I'd been aching to share. 2 hours later, in the quiet hum of the car ride home, I opened my phone and saw the group chat a flight confirmation to the Bahamas for everyone but me. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever been the one holding everything together while everyone else got to fall apart. I grew up in a colonial-style house just outside Portsmouth, New Hampshire, the kind with creaky floorboards and shutters painted every spring by hand. My mom, Marion, was a fifth-grade teacher who kept a mason jar of pencils by the front door, and my dad, Frank, was an accountant who never missed a town meeting. They raised us with structure, Sunday dinners like clockwork, Thanksgiving tables with cloth napkins and stories. We'd heard 100 times. We weren't rich, but we never felt poor. Not when Dad's meatloaf was on the table and the firewood was stacked high before the first frost. Ethan was the bold one, always chasing big ideas and somehow never sticking to one. Lily was the dreamer, changing majors, changing jobs, changing cities. She always had a journal in her bag and no plan for tomorrow. Me, I was the middle child, but I acted like the oldest, always there, always ready. If Ethan forgot his wallet or Lily needed gas money, I gave rides, I lent money. I showed up on time with casseroles and spare keys after college. I landed a job in marketing and worked my way up faster than I expected, late nights early. Flights learning to navigate corporate rooms filled with sharp suits and tight smiles. It was a different world than the one I grew up in, but I never let go of that sense of duty my parents had instilled in me. I paid my own way, and when their savings ran thin, I helped pay theirs too. David came into my life during a fundraiser at work, soft-spoken with steady eyes and a calming way of making everything feel less heavy. On our third date, I canceled dinner because Lily was moving again and needed help. He didn't scold me. He just asked gently, "Do you ever say no to them?" I brushed it off, told him that's what family does, but the question stayed with me longer than I admitted. Every Christmas I showed up with wrapped gifts and recipes written in my mother's handwriting. Every Christmas I waited for the moment when things might finally feel even, but it never came. Still, I hoped this year would be different. David had proposed 2 weeks before, and I imagined the joy in my mother's eyes, the pride in my father's voice, the shared laughter over wedding plans. I bought gifts that stretched my budget. A coffee maker for my parents, headphones for Ethan, a professional camera for Lily, all wrapped with care, ribbon tucked just so. 2 weeks before the holiday, I called my mom to offer help with the usual prep, but she told me not to worry. She had it under control, something about church activities and wanting me to rest. I thought it was sweet, a rare gesture of consideration. But as the days passed, the excuses piled up. Ethan was vague about his arrival. Lily dodged questions with half answers. A trip to the store, a ride from a friend. The pieces didn't fit, but I didn't know what puzzle I was looking at yet. Then 3 days before Christmas, I dropped by the house with cookies and saw my dad closing the garage over a row of suitcases. He said they were for a church donation drive, and I believed him. At least part of me did. I didn't realize until it was too late that I'd been watching the setup to something that would change everything. The morning of Christmas Eve was cold, but the roads were clear. David and I loaded the trunk with wrapped gifts and a bottle of champagne I'd picked out for the announcement. As we turned down the familiar street toward my parents' house, I could see the plastic snowman glowing in the yard, same spot as every year. Lights framed the porch in neat lines, just like my mother always did. Nothing looked out of place. Inside the house smelled like cinnamon and cloves. My mother greeted us with a tight hug and a comment about how pale I looked. My father offered David a drink and laughed a little too hard at something he said about traffic. Ethan and Lily were already there, faces down in their phones. Aunt Bonnie and Uncle Ray arrived not long after, followed by my cousins Jenna and Kyle. Everyone smiled, asked how work was going, but changed the subject whenever I mentioned plans for the new year. Dinner moved along the way it always did. The same dishes, the same stories. But something about the way my mother moved in and out of the room and how no one lingered over dessert felt off. When Lily asked me to grab her phone from the kitchen before we left for church, I didn't hesitate. I found it on the counter beside the cookie jar. As I picked it up, a message lit up the screen. The group chat showed part of a message, something about a flight being confirmed for the 26th. My fingers went cold. I turned the phone face down on the counter and waited a moment before heading back to the living room. Lily was already at the door, pulling on her coat. I didn't say anything that night. Not in the car, not during the service, not even after we got home. David waited until we were settled in the guest room to speak. "You saw something," he said gently. I nodded. "They're going on a trip. I think it's everyone. Except us." He waited. "What do you want to do?" I didn't have an answer. By morning, the snow had dusted the roof and lined the bare branches outside my old bedroom window. My stomach felt tight, but I smiled as we walked downstairs. The tree stood tall in the corner of the living room, lit from within. My mother had set out the holiday china. The coffee smelled strong and familiar. Megan sorted gifts into piles like she always had. My dad handed out mugs and made a joke about the weather. I watched everyone closely, trying to understand how they could carry on like nothing was wrong. When the last of the gifts had been passed around, I stood and cleared my throat. "David and I have something to share." They all looked up. I held out my hand and let the light catch the sapphire ring. "We're engaged." There was a pause just long enough to notice. My mother stood and hugged me. My father shook David's hand. Ethan raised his coffee mug in a lazy toast. Lily smiled, said the ring was pretty. No questions, no excitement, no toast with the champagne I'd brought. A few minutes later, my mother began clearing plates. I offered to help, but she waved me off. "Lily's helping already." When she left the room, she forgot her phone on the cushion beside her. Another message flashed across the screen. "Final reminder. Meet at the airport, 8 a.m. Don't forget passports and sunscreen." This time I didn't hesitate. I picked up the phone and opened the group chat. There were dozens of messages, lists of activities, links to the resort, jokes about packing delays. Every name was there: my parents, Ethan, Lily, Aunt Bonnie, Uncle Ray, the cousins. Every name except mine, except David's. One message from my mother stood out. "Not a word to Rachel. She's always so busy with work anyway." Another from Ethan. "She'd probably bail at the last minute like always." And Lily? "And she'd bring David. This is supposed to be just family." I heard footsteps behind me. Lily had returned for her phone. When she saw it in my hand, she stopped short. "Why are you looking at my messages?" I looked up. "Why are you all going on vacation without me?" The living room went silent. David stood behind me now, his hand resting on my back. My mother came in from the kitchen. "What's going on?" I spoke clearly. I saw the messages. The ones about the Bahamas. The ones where you all made plans without me. My father stepped forward. "It's not what you think. Then explain it." "We didn't want to make you feel bad," my mother said. "We knew you'd be busy. We thought it'd be easier not to mention it." Ethan shifted in his chair. "You never have time off anyway. And we wanted a real family trip," Lily added, then went quiet. I repeated her words back. "A real family trip." My father tried to step in. "That's not what she meant. We just thought planning around your schedule and David's family would be hard. So it was easier to lie, to use the money I gave you and pretend nothing was happening." They didn't answer. I looked at Ethan. "That $3,000 you needed for your business, was it for this trip?" He looked at the floor. "I was going to pay you back. And Lily, the rent you said you couldn't make?" She didn't respond. I turned to my parents. "And the plumbing bill, the one you said couldn't wait." My mother's eyes welled with tears. "We just wanted a nice vacation. Without me," I said quietly. Kevin looked annoyed. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said. "I'm finally seeing it for what it is." David touched my arm. "We should go." I nodded. I didn't say goodbye. The presents I'd wrapped were still under the tree untouched. In the car, I stared out the window as David drove. My phone buzzed with messages, but I didn't look. My family had spoken loudest, not through words, but through what they'd left out. And in that silence, something had shifted. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever go back to how it was. The week after Christmas passed like fog. I didn't go into the office. I left my laptop closed on the kitchen counter and let unread emails pile up. David brewed coffee each morning and brought it to me without asking questions. We spent hours on the couch, not saying much. Some nights I cried without warning. Other nights I couldn't fall asleep at all. The messages from my family didn't stop. Missed calls, texts, photos. My mother sent a picture of a candlelit dinner with the caption, "Missing you tonight." Ethan posted a video of them on jet skis with music playing in the background. Lily uploaded a photo in front of a palm tree, drink in hand, and tagged it family time. I watched the pictures scroll past, one after another. Matching outfits, smiling faces, someone toasting with a drink I had once bought for them. I stared at my phone until the screen went dark, then stared at the dark. David sat beside me on the third night and gently turned my phone face down on the table. "You don't have to keep looking. I need to see it," I said. He didn't argue. On New Year's Eve, we skipped the party we'd planned to attend. We stayed in and watched the clock strike midnight from our living room. I opened the messages I'd been avoiding. The first was from my mother. "We love you, Rachel. Please don't make this a bigger deal than it needs to be." My father's message came next. "Your mother is upset. She just wanted a simple vacation. Don't hold this over her." Ethan's was blunt. "You're really going to freeze us out over a trip." Lily's message read, "I'm sorry you found out like that, but you're being really dramatic. Not everything is about you." I stared at her words for a long time. Then I put the phone down and let the silence settle. David picked it up and placed it on the charger across the room. "They still don't understand." "No," I said. "They don't." 2 days later, I sat across from a woman named Dr. Fiona Barrett. David had found her name, called her office, and quietly scheduled the first appointment. Her office was calm bookshelves, a small lamp, a quiet hum from a heater in the corner. I told her everything, the Christmas morning, the phone screen, the group chat, all of it. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned forward slightly. "You've been playing a role in your family for a long time. That role no longer fits, but the others haven't let go of the script." I sat very still. "Why do they treat me like this?" I asked. "Because it works," she said. "If your role changes, then theirs has to change too, and they're not ready for that." The words echoed in my head on the drive home. The quiet made more sense than anything I'd heard in weeks. Over the next few sessions, Dr. Barrett helped me unravel memories I'd packed away in pieces. I began making a list in a notebook. Times I'd paid bills for someone else, canceled trips, gave up vacation time, let things slide. I remembered lending Ethan my car for 6 months during college and getting it back with the transmission shot. I remembered Lily borrowing a dress for a job interview and returning it stained, then laughing when I noticed. I remembered Thanksgiving last year when I cooked for 15 people because my parents had spent their budget on a weekend getaway. The notebook pages filled quickly. At home, I pulled old bank statements and scanned through years of transactions. Rent transfers, checks, cash app notes with vague descriptions. I totaled it all. Just over $70,000 across 8 years. I sat back and stared at the number. David came in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "You okay?" I turned the notebook toward him. He looked at the number and nodded slowly. "That's a house, or grad school, or both." I said nothing. The next morning, I blocked Ethan's number after he sent a message asking for $600 to cover rent. No apology, no mention of Christmas, just the same old ask. When he followed up with, "What do you mean?" No, I didn't reply. Later that week, my parents called. My father's voice came through first. "Ethan told us you refused to help with his rent. Rachel family supports each other." "Yes," I said, "like when family includes you in things, or tells the truth." My mother tried a different tone. "We've always been there for you." "When have you ever put me first?" I asked. The line was quiet. "I'm stepping back," I said. "I'm not the family bank anymore." The words didn't feel dramatic. They felt quiet. Final. After I hung up, Lily called crying. "I can't believe you said that to Mom and Dad. You're walking away from us. I'm asking for respect," I said. "You're being cold. This isn't like you." "Maybe I'm not who you thought I was." She hung up without saying goodbye. The days that followed were full of noise. Voicemails, long emails, distant cousins weighed in. Aunt Bonnie called to say I was being unfair. Uncle Ray left a message about forgiveness. Only one call stood out. My cousin Jenna called in the middle of the week. "I just want to say I get it," she said. "They did something similar to me 2 years ago. It never really got better. I didn't say anything back then, but I wish I had." Her words stayed with me. I wrote them down in my notebook and circled them twice. That weekend, I stopped checking Instagram. I turned off comment notifications. I moved my emergency savings to a separate account. I added a new line to my budget labeled home. Spring was still weeks away, but I opened the windows one afternoon while cleaning the apartment. The air smelled cold but fresh. David came in with groceries and set them on the counter. "You seem better," he said. I nodded. "I'm getting there." The light was different, softer, less strained. But I knew something else was coming. The calm before the next attempt to pull me back in. And when it came, I'd be ready to meet it with something I'd never had before: boundaries that didn't bend. By mid-February, the tension had shifted into something quieter. My phone still buzzed, but the messages had changed. They weren't angry, now they were concerned. Disappointed. My mother sent a photo of a family dinner table, 2 empty chairs circled with a digital heart. The caption read, "It's not the same without you." I didn't reply. Instead, I took longer walks after work. I let voicemail fill up. I met David at a coffee shop near my office and brought my notebook. We sat at a small table near the window, and I made a list. Not of money this time, but of time. Days taken off, holidays missed, birthday parties I hosted when others forgot. At our next appointment, Doctor Barrett asked, "What did you want from them, Rachel?" I sat with the question for a moment. "I want to be seen. I want them to stop treating me like I'm only useful when they need something." She nodded slowly. "And what if they can't give that I didn't answer right away?" I wrote the question down in my notebook and underlined it twice. Later that week, my cousin Jenna called again. She asked how I was doing and told me she'd heard through her dad that Ethan had moved in with a friend across town. Lily had picked up extra shifts at her job. "It sounds like they're figuring things out," she said. "They're capable," I said. Jenna was quiet for a second. "Sometimes people don't grow until they have to." The next morning, I found a printed flyer from my parents in my mailbox, a family dinner invitation for the first Sunday in March. My name was written in blue ink at the top, followed by, "Let's start fresh. Love, Mom." David watched me read it. "Do you want to go?" "I don't know yet," I said. That Sunday, I pulled up to my parents' house alone. David had offered to come, but I told him I needed to do this on my own. The porch light was already on, even though it was still daylight. I stood at the door for a long time before knocking. My mother opened it quickly, like she'd been standing just inside. "You look tired," she said. My father appeared behind her, nodding once. Ethan and Lily were already seated in the living room. Everyone was dressed a little too nicely for a casual Sunday. The table was set with the good china. There was a roast in the oven. We made it through salad and bread without anyone mentioning Christmas. My mother talked about a new neighbor. My father asked about the weather. Lily complimented my earrings. Everything felt stiff, rehearsed, like a play I hadn't agreed to be part of. When dessert was served, my father cleared his throat. "We're glad you came, Rachel. We know things have been tense." I waited. "We handled the vacation poorly," he continued. "We should have done it differently. And we're sorry." My mother nodded. "We thought it would be too hard for you to take time off, and we didn't want you to feel bad about missing it." "It's not about the vacation," I said quietly. "It's about everything." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. "It's not one trip. It's a pattern. It's years of me giving and you all taking." My father frowned. "That's not fair." I took my phone out of my purse and opened a note I'd prepared. "Ethan, you've borrowed over $40,000 from me over the years. Lily, I've paid your rent 6 times. I covered your tuition twice. Mom and Dad, I've contributed to your household expenses more than a dozen times." No one said anything. "And when have any of you helped me?" I asked. "When have you ever asked what I needed?" My mother's voice broke. "We helped with college. We gave what we could." "You gave $5,000 toward my tuition," I said. I worked full-time and took out loans. You paid Ethan's in full. Rachel, my father said you've always been the one we could count on. That's the problem, I said. The room went quiet again. The only sound was the clock ticking over the fireplace. I'm not doing it anymore, I said. No more money, no more bailouts, no more being the fallback plan. Lily's fork clattered against her plate. You can't be serious. I am. But my rent's due this week, Ethan said. I can't help you. You always have. Not anymore. My mother pressed her napkin to her lips. But we're family. I'm still your daughter, but I'm not your safety net. The table shifted from silence to panic. Ethan asked what he was supposed to do. Lily said she might lose her apartment. My father said I was being selfish. My mother accused David of putting ideas in my head. I sat still and listened. I'm setting boundaries, I said. That's all. My father stood. If you walk out now, don't expect everything to go back to normal. I picked up my purse and stood. That's what I'm hoping. I drove home without turning on the radio. David was waiting in the living room when I walked in. He didn't ask how it went. He just opened his arms. I stood there for a long time before speaking. I don't think they heard me. Maybe not yet, he said. I nodded, but I heard myself. The calls started again the next morning. Ethan first. I'm serious, Rachel. I don't have it this month. I was counting on you. I told you already. I can't help. You're just going to let me get evicted. That's not my responsibility anymore. He hung up without another word. That afternoon, I got a voicemail from my father. Rachel, I don't know what this is about anymore, but your brother's struggling. Family helps family. You used to understand that. Then my mother called. Your father's upset. He hasn't been sleeping. I know things got heated at dinner, but can't we just move forward? I didn't return the calls. The next day, Lily showed up outside my building. I saw her through the lobby doors before she rang up. She looked thinner than I remembered and nervous. I met her downstairs. Please don't shut us out, she said. We were wrong not to tell you about the trip. But you're going too far. I'm not shutting you out. I'm saying no. I don't know who you are anymore. I didn't answer. She didn't stay long. That weekend I got a letter from Aunt Bonnie. It was handwritten, folded twice. Whatever's going on between you and the rest of the family, please don't let it ruin everything. Life's too short for grudges. I set it aside and made tea. Only Jenna checked in without asking me to reconsider. She texted a photo of her dog in a sweater and a message that said, "Proud of you. Just wanted to say that again." In our next session, Dr. Barrett asked, "How are you holding up with the pressure? It's everywhere. They're pushing from every direction because they don't believe you'll follow through." I nodded. They think I'll fold. Will you? No. In March, I began working longer hours again, not out of stress, but focus. I felt clearer. I reorganized my budget, increased the amount going into savings, and called a financial planner for the first time. Her name was Alyssa Wright. We met over video. I told her about my goals. She didn't flinch when I said I'd been giving away thousands of dollars each year to family. She just nodded and asked what I wanted to build instead. A home, I said, somewhere that's ours. She ran the numbers. With your current salary and the way you're saving now, you could hit your target in less than a year. I looked over at David sitting on the other end of the couch. He raised his eyebrows when I repeated what she'd said. "We can do this," he said. I believed him. Spring came early. I stopped by the park some mornings before work. I got used to walking past my phone when it buzzed and waiting until I was ready to check it. By April, the messages slowed. My mother sent a photo of crocuses blooming near their mailbox, but no caption. Ethan stopped texting entirely. Lily tagged me in a recipe post, but didn't follow up. Then came the email. It was from my mother. The subject line said, "Can we talk?" The message was short. "I've been thinking about what you said, about patterns, about fairness. I don't agree with everything, but I'm listening. Your father and I are meeting with someone to talk about retirement planning. We know we relied on you too much. I hope someday we can be a family again in a better way." I read it twice. David came over and rested his hand on my shoulder. "How do you feel?" I'm not sure I said, but I believe her more than I did before. I didn't respond right away. I let the words settle for a day or two. Then I wrote back, "Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate the effort. I'm open to rebuilding something new when the time is right. No promises, just possibility." That weekend I called Jenna and asked if she wanted to meet for coffee. She arrived wearing sunglasses and a spring scarf. We sat by the window and talked about everything but family for 20 minutes before she leaned in. "Just so you know, Ethan has a roommate now, and he's working at an insurance firm downtown." I didn't say anything. "And Lily's still at that cafe. It's been 3 months. She told me she's going back to school this fall. She chose the program Hospitality Management, paying for it herself." I stirred my coffee. "That's good." "It is." We didn't dwell on it. By the time May rolled in, the pressure that had once felt constant now came in slow waves. I still got messages sometimes. Lily posted a throwback photo of the 3 of us on Easter when we were kids. Ethan emailed to say he was doing fine and didn't need anything. My mother forwarded a recipe with the subject line, "Made me think of you." The tone had changed. Not resolved, but changing. One evening, David and I stood on our small balcony watching the sunset. He asked, "Are you okay with how it's all turning out?" "I'm not sure," I said. "But I'm okay with where I am." He nodded. We stayed there until the light faded behind the rooftops. Somewhere below us, a car door slammed. A child called out. Life moved on. Inside, I pulled out the notebook where I'd started everything and opened to the first page. I read the list in silence. Then I turned to a fresh page and wrote a new title. What I Want Next. In early June, the quiet broke. It was a Thursday morning. I had just finished a call with a client when my office line rang again. The screen showed my parents' number. I let it go to voicemail. By lunch, my phone had 6 missed calls. 2 from my mother, 3 from Ethan. 1 from a number I didn't recognize. Then an email arrived. Subject line, "Let's end this." It was from my father. "Rachel," it read, "enough time has passed. We all made mistakes. You've punished this family long enough. Your mother is tired. We're trying to move on, but you keep dragging it out. Please come to dinner this Sunday. No more drama." I read it twice. Then I clicked archive. That evening, I came home to find a note under our apartment door. No envelope, just 5 words in shaky handwriting. "Please come. Just talk. Mom." David found me standing in the hallway holding it. "Is this it?" he asked. "I think so." We talked for a long time that night. David said he would support whatever I decided. Go or don't go, he'd be behind me. I told him I didn't want to fight. I just wanted it to be done. Sunday came hot and still. I dressed in something simple and left the apartment early. David asked again if I wanted him there. I told him no. I needed to say what I had to say alone. The house looked the same. My father's car was in the driveway. The porch planters were blooming with petunias. Inside, my mother was setting the table. My father stood near the kitchen with a glass of iced tea. Ethan and Lily were already seated in the living room, both quiet, both watching me as I entered. "We're glad you came," my mother said. Her voice sounded too cheerful. I nodded but didn't sit. "We've been thinking a lot about what you said last time," my father began. "We understand now that we hurt you. We didn't mean to," my mother added quickly. "That wasn't our intention." "I'm not here for apologies," I said. "I'm here to be clear." They stopped talking. "You've said you want to move forward. So do I. But I won't go back to the way things were." I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder I'd prepared. This is a record of what I've given over the years. The loans, the tuition, the bills. I'm not asking for it back. I'm just acknowledging it. My father glanced at the folder but didn't take it. "I'm done being the person you only call when something goes wrong. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your financial safety net, and I'm not your project to fix." "You're being cold," Lily said, barely above a whisper. "No," I said. "I'm being clear." Ethan stood up. "You think this is easy for any of us? You think we like needing help?" "No one made you need help," I said. "You chose it, over and over again." "We're family," my mother said softly. "We're supposed to lean on each other. Then why is it always me you lean on?" No one spoke. "I want a relationship with you," I said. "But it has to be equal, honest, and if you can't do that, I'm okay stepping away." My father looked at the floor. My mother's eyes welled with tears. "We've been trying," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but trying isn't the same as changing." I gathered my bag and turned to leave. No one followed me out. That night, David and I ate dinner on the balcony. He didn't ask what happened. I didn't offer it. The next morning, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just for myself. "I forgive you," I wrote, "but I'm choosing peace." I folded it and placed it in the back of my journal. 2 days later, a package arrived in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting on the label was my mother's. Inside was a photograph. It was from my 6th birthday. I was holding a cake with yellow frosting, smiling between Ethan and Lily. My mother had written on the back, "We always loved you. We just didn't know how to show it." I placed the photo in a drawer. Then I opened my laptop and began searching home listings again. We were closer than ever. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. Not silent, just steady. My parents didn't call. Ethan didn't text. Lily posted a few things on social media, but they weren't directed at me. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could exhale without bracing for something. David and I toured a condo on the east side of town. It was small, but bright. A 2nd bedroom that could be an office. A kitchen with real tile. A little balcony that caught the afternoon sun. We talked about paint colors on the drive home. The next morning, we called the realtor and put in an offer. We spent the weekend packing boxes we didn't need yet. Books, framed photos, extra linens. Things we hadn't touched in months, but didn't want to leave behind. David labeled each box with a black marker while I made lists of what we'd still need to buy. Late that Sunday night, after we'd cleared the kitchen table, I noticed my phone screen lighting up across the room. It was Ethan, then Lily, then a number I didn't know. I ignored them. The next call came to David's phone. He looked at it, then at me. "It's your brother." I nodded once. He answered, "Rachel's not available right now," then paused. "Yes, I'll tell her." He hung up. "You should check your email." I opened my laptop. There were 4 new messages. The most recent was from my father. Subject line urgent. "Rachel, it said Kevin showed up at our house an hour ago yelling in the driveway. He says you owe him. I don't know what you told him, but this needs to stop." The one before that was from Ethan. "I'm coming to get what's mine. You think you can just cut people off and walk away?" And one from Lily. "He's not doing well. I tried to stop him. You pushed him too far." I closed the laptop. Half an hour later, someone buzzed our building's front door. David looked out through the peephole. "It's him." I stepped back. "Don't open it." We waited in silence while Ethan banged on the door. "You think this is over, Rachel? After everything I did for you?" David raised his phone. "We'll call the building manager." Ethan slid something under the door. Then his footsteps moved down the hall. I waited a few seconds, then picked it up. It was a torn sheet of notebook paper. 5 words written in thick black ink. "You'll regret this decision forever." David took it from my hands and folded it once. "You okay?" I nodded. "I'm done being afraid of him." The next morning, I emailed our building office and asked to update our emergency contacts. I requested a note be added to our file not to buzz up anyone without our permission. Then I sat down and made a different kind of list. Automatic payments I needed to cancel, joint accounts I needed to close, loan cosigns I needed to remove my name from. I called our bank and scheduled a meeting with the branch manager. By Friday, I had removed myself from every shared financial tie with my family. The counselor at the bank told me it might take a few weeks to fully process everything, but the hardest part, deciding to do it, was already behind me. That night, David brought home takeout and set the table with 2 glasses and paper napkins. We didn't talk much while we ate, just sat across from each other listening to the rain outside. Later, as we cleaned up, he asked, "Do you think it's really over? I think the version of me they used to know is." The following Sunday, a letter arrived from my mother. It wasn't handwritten. It was typed and printed with her signature at the bottom. "Rachel," it read, "we don't know who you are anymore. Your father is heartbroken. Your brother is angry. Your sister feels abandoned. We raised you better than this. Family doesn't turn its back." I folded the letter carefully and slid it into a drawer with the others. In therapy the next day, Dr. Barrett asked how I felt. "Lighter," I said, "clearer. Any doubt only about why I didn't do it sooner?" She nodded. "There's grief in letting go, but also freedom." I carried that sentence with me for the rest of the week. By Thursday, the condo paperwork was finalized. The closing date was set. David and I picked a move-in weekend and made plans for pizza on the floor our first night. On Saturday morning, I opened the closet and pulled down the box labeled photos. Inside were albums I hadn't touched in years, family trips, school plays, holidays. I flipped through them slowly, stopping on one of me at 16, holding a cake while everyone else smiled toward someone out of frame. I set it aside and kept going. Near the bottom of the box was a postcard from Cape Cod. The handwriting was my mother's. "Missed you this weekend. Hope work is going okay. No date, no signature. Just that one sentence." I placed it on the counter and left it there. That evening, Jenna texted, "Thinking about you." "Coffee soon," I replied, "Yes." Next week, and for the first time in months, I closed the night without checking for missed calls. The day we moved into the new condo, a gentle rain tapped against the windows. David carried the last box through the door, set it down, and looked around at the nearly empty rooms. I stood in the kitchen, turning slow circles, listening to the quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't feel tense or braced for someone else's crisis. We spent the afternoon unpacking. I found a spot on a shelf for the old family photo, even though I wasn't sure I'd ever want to display it. David hung the curtain rods and opened the balcony door to let in the fresh air. That night, we sat on the floor with paper plates and pizza, our voices hushed, as if we were guests in our own home. But as the hours passed, it began to feel like ours, a space no one else could claim. Weeks slipped by, filled with new routines and quiet mornings. I stopped reaching for my phone the second I woke. I started baking again just for the comfort of it filling the kitchen with the smell of cinnamon and vanilla. Jenna came over with coffee and a plant for our windowsill. We talked for hours without once mentioning my family. Some days I'd catch a glimpse of that old photo and feel a pinch of sorrow. There were still memories I cherished, holidays before things changed, laughter that rang clear and true. I didn't erase those moments, but I no longer let them guide my choices. Slowly, I heard news through Jenna, or the occasional holiday card. Ethan had held on to his job and was living on his own. Lily finished her first semester back at school and sounded steadier than I'd ever known her to be. My parents were adjusting, making different plans for their future without leaning on me to fill every gap. I never expected a perfect ending, just a real one. Sometimes the people we love don't become who we hoped they'd be, but we can still wish them well from a distance. I learned finally that my worth wasn't measured by how much I gave or how much I forgave. Justice for me became the quiet courage to build a life where I could stand whole and at peace. If you've ever had to draw a hard line with those closest to you, I hope you know you're not alone. Sometimes dignity is simply choosing yourself, even when it's hard. Thank you for sharing this story with me. If it touched something in you, I hope you'll share your own or listen for the next one. Until then, may you find the strength to protect what matters most to you.